and top. I personally think the tank Sylas in the mid is the strongest, and I do think that we saw some very good performances on it yesterday, and now SK need to find an answer to it, because so far in Europe we haven't really seen that many counters. Usually he only lost one game yesterday, and that was against G2, and they didn't even play against the Sylas. They just had Caps roam around everywhere else and snowball the other side lanes.
Definitely did. Thresh picked up here for SK as well. It's going to go into the hands of Dreams. I'd like to see an aggressive pick for Selfmade. That's exactly what we're going to get. It's the Rek'Sai.
Very exciting.
Star
now,
jungler.
Many consider Selfmade to be one of, if not the best ganking jungler in the league. He just seems to turn every single gank attempt into some kind of success for his team, and Rek'Sai is one of the best champions to enable that. So very excited to see it in the hands of Selfmade, but G2 immediately answer with a bot lane of their own.
Yeah, get the Kai'Sa and the Alistar for themselves. I like Alistar as a pick into Thresh. It's quite hard to actually take him down in the lane. Kai'Sa not the strongest laner though, but I'd like SK to go to something a little bit more aggressive in Crownshot's hands, maybe even the Draven that we saw hovered.
Well, so far, G2 have pretty solid scaling.
Yep.
They've got a form of engage with the Alistar, they have good side lane threat with the Sylas, and they also have good late game damage with the Kai'Sa. So I'm not too concerned with what we're seeing so far. We are seeing Pirean go for the LeBlanc. We saw this matchup yesterday. I believe it was Nukeduck who played the Sylas into the LeBlanc of, I forget which team they were playing up against yesterday.
Humanoid?
It was Humanoid, yes, and we saw that the LeBlanc struggled. I'm personally not a fan of the matchup. I think Sylas can do very well into it, but clearly mid laners in the LEC consider it to be a form of counter pick, and if G2 is scared of it, they can always move the Sylas out of the mid lane and put him up towards the top side, or even the jungle.
A lot of flexibility still in that pick. You can see SK Gaming a little bit scared of Jankos. His Elise last week was terrifying and has been for his entire course as a player, really, in the LEC. Tristana taken away by G2 as well, getting rid of a bit of that all-in potential from the SK Gaming bottom lane. Crownshot has gone to things like the Ezreal in the past. Not sure that's what you want to pick into this Kai'Sa lane, though.
They may look to ban away the Jinx now. This is something that he actually used to play a lot when he played in the regional league. And I also think it can be a very solid pick into the Kai'Sa, but they're actually going to go towards the Vayne. Very scared of that potential out-dueling and out-scaling champion, which means that Crownshot does have the Jinx available. We were just talking about it, and immediately it is going to be that high priority for SK.
I still only hovered over it right now, but wouldn't be surprised at all, as you say, if it is locked in. One of Crownshot's signature champions from his days in the regional leagues. Good prediction there. Vedius, G2. Said they've got a bit of scaling, they've got a bit of side lane. How do they round out this composition?
Well, I think they could go for the Olaf here if they want someone that can match the Rek'Sai in terms of early game pressure, but it depends how much towards the early game they want to go. Jarvan would arguably be one of the safest because it just acts as better follow-up engage as well. But the problem with G2 is you can never really predict what direction they go with their draft because they're so versatile. But now we see that, again, you can still flex the Jarvan, but there's no value at this point because you have to lock your next two picks in. So Jarvan, they have engaged, they have decent scaling. If we assume that the Jarvan is in the top lane, then I would say either an Olaf or... I don't know. Yeah. I'm out of champions.
I think it's a little bit tough. Looking at the composition, I wonder if they needed just a tad more damage to round it out, if the Sylas is going for that more tanky build.
That's fair. That's fair.
I like the Aurelia pick here. It looks like the Jarvan probably going to go to the jungle, although we have seen a couple of Sylas jungles as well.
It's definitely, I think that we can safely assume that the Jarvan is in the jungle and the Aurelia is top. So this is something that G2 have showcased now, that they're happy to blind pick the Aurelia. I think that's quite cool. But SK immediately have an answer to it. I really like Poppy into the matchup. I think that she can mitigate a lot of the mobility that Aurelia can bring, and I also think that after they removed the shield shredding power that Aurelia used to provide, Poppy now holds her own much better in this 1v1 as well. Also, a very good answer into just overall the mobility from the side of G2. The Alistar engage, the Jarvan EQ combo, the Sylas dashes. I'm not entirely sure if the Kai'Sa ultimate counts. I think it is a dash rather than a blind.
You stop her at the edge of Poppy step forward.
Which means that Poppy can interrupt every single mobility skill that G2 is running for themselves right now. So I like the pick overall. I can see how it is in terms of the overall team comp. The only thing I'm concerned about for SK is that late game, because I do think that while they do have some insurance with the Jinx, by going for Rek'Sai and LeBlanc, it means that you almost have to get a lead towards the early stages so you can transition into a solid mid-game. And what we see is that the mid-game is where G2 seem to explode. That 15 to 25 minute mark, when the game seems even, is when this team really turns online and starts to get very proactive, looks for a lot of skirmishes and fights. And I think their team, again, is very good at these skirmishes. They have very strong 2v2, 3v3s. They have the ability to move around the map pretty freely, and I think this game is going to come down to, can SK get Pirean ahead up against Caps? Meanwhile, I feel like that for G2, their focus is going to be once again to try and get Wunder ahead, see if they can get this Aurelia strong in a side lane, and then they can set up for a 1-3-1 with Sylas on one side, Aurelia on the other.
Yep.
And then just basically control all three lanes.
And you have the Kai'Sa for any late game team fights that you might have as well around those neutral objectives. Last time these teams met was about even at the 15-minute mark. At the 25-minute mark, G2 had ended the game with a 9,000 gold lead. So as we heard on the desk, as we heard from you there, Vedius, SK need to avoid losing out in those mid-game skirmishes. We're going to jump onto the Summoner's Rift. I think you've kind of already alluded to it, but I'm going to ask you to elucidate just a little bit more about where you think SK are going to play this early game.
So very much around the mid lane, I think you have to kind of get Pirean ahead. On the LeBlanc, it's very important that you have an advantage up against the Sylas. And we might take a little closer look at the mid lane matchup, but we'll see how this plays out in the early stages, because Jankos right now is setting up an invade, but he has been spotted.
Uses the spear just to check out. Pirean takes stun first. Jankos has to use the flash, and that is a Summoner spell burnt already on the G2 jungler.
So he's showing that respect. He didn't want to run the risk of getting collapsed. Note how you think initially they don't have enough damage, but then if Werlyb decides to skill his wall slam ability early on, combined with the Q damage from Selfmade on the Rek'Sai, that might have been enough to actually secure a first blood kill. So Jankos just avoiding all possible risk and just flashing out very early.
Werlyb has gone for the Conqueror on the Poppy in the top lane as well, so expecting maybe some of those more prolonged trades.
Yeah, Conqueror is, from what, having spoken to pros, I've heard that it's good again on champions that can, number one, easily stack it, or champions that are very good at sticking to champions, so that is easier to stack. And I feel like Poppy's one of the champions that, in terms of abilities, she probably doesn't get the stacks very quickly, but just because she has the slow on her Q, she has a decent amount of ability, she gets to move bonus movement speed on a W as well, along with the E gap closer. I think that it just allows her to stay in these fights for an extended period of time, which can then generate those Conqueror stacks.
Stickability of that top laner. I want to just look a little bit towards the mid lane as well as we explore the matchup between the LeBlanc and the Sylas, because Pirean did decide to pick the LeBlanc into this Sylas pick here, and at the moment it looks to be going okay. He's gone for the electrocute into the aftershock. Caps pretty tanky on that Sylas, always pretty easy for him to be, and not too much else happening. I think bot lane is always a key point of awareness. Dreams and Crownshot got the level 2 first, so they're about 5-6 CS up here, but Perkz and Mikyx, they're not looking to do too much in this lane. Kai'Sa isn't really a very strong lane bully, so the ability for them to scale up into the game is all they really want out of this bottom lane.
So the thing is, in terms of the bot lane matchup, Crownshot has a range advantage. I don't have time for that because Selfmade already looking for a play in the mid lane. If that chain does land from Pirean, they can find a kill.
Chain does not connect, Caps just dodges to the side, and Selfmade comes in and immediately just sheepishly walks his way down towards the bottom side of the map. Still has his blue buff to pick up, so he'll go towards that, but you can already see G2 trying to keep vision control around this mid. They know that's where SK will be playing.
Well, if we take a quick look at the minimap, you'll notice that Wunder has priority in the top side of the map. The Aurelia versus Poppy matchup usually means that Aurelia has push in the early levels, can trade a little bit more effectively, and as you can see already, it does cost a bit of mana for Wunder, but it means that he can just keep this wave push underneath the tower and just kind of force Werlyb to play on the defensive. Meanwhile, on the bot side of the map, the opposite is happening in favor of SK. When you pick the Kai'Sa, you are outranged by the Jinx, which means that every time you approach the wave, you're always going to take that form of harassment, which means that it's very difficult for Perkz to actually get priority, and then when you're playing up against a Thresh as well, one wrong move, you get hooked up into the Flame Chompers, immediately you lose a lot of your health. So SK have priority bot, G2 have priority top, and in the mid, it's fairly neutral, and that's why jungle influence is so important for the side of SK, because when you're playing on this bit of a timer, when you're on this LeBlanc champion, and you kind of want to get to that Ludens as quickly as possible, you want to have an early lead so that you can start moving around the map and use your mobility to find these picks. It's very crucial that you put resources into the champion so that you can get her ahead. And it doesn't mean that you have to be like 5 kills by 15 minutes, but having a kill up, having an experience advantage, having a CS advantage is all really important in the LeBlanc matchup. And I personally feel that it can be very difficult when playing up against a Sylas.
Especially if the Sylas is as tanky as Caps is with this Aftershock rune as well. Looks like engaging the bot lane as Mikyx flashes into Dreams. Dreams ignited straight away, looking for the stun. Should be an easy enough kill here. Mikyx gets it with the ignite, and G2 are on the board.
Now, I would not expect Jankos to actually invest the gank towards the bot side of the map, but the execution was very well done. Mikyx, all he had to do was flash in, get the knock-up onto Dreams, and immediately he's able to get the knockback combo because Dreams wasn't able to flash in time. I mean, he may have even been CC chained for so long that he didn't have an opportunity to flash. So G2, they find themselves first blood. They get it towards the area of the map that SK even have pressure, which is going to make this early game a little bit easier for G2.
The only benefit for SK out of that is they don't burn any summoners in losing this. But you can see Jankos in position, Mikyx with the flash engaged. Not really much you can do here. Dreams only able to get a flay, doesn't want to use his flash because he's flashing straight into the stun from Mikyx. And it's an easy enough kill for G2.
Yeah, not really much to break down there, just very well done. Now Jankos could be in some danger, doesn't have the flash yet.
Flash in from Pirean, doesn't have that much mana. Jankos pushed into the wall with a heroic charge, and that's a good kill from SK. Opposite sides of the map, but both teams are now on the board.
So while Jankos is able to find the first blood, he's immediately punished by the side of SK. And this was simply a matter of, I'm not entirely sure when that ward was set up, but Jankos gets spotted in the river when he doesn't have pressure in mid or top. That means it's easier for Werlyb and Pirean to get the collapse, which means that immediately a numbers advantage is in favor of SK, and they find themselves a kill onto a flashless Jankos.
Now, Jankos is on his way up here. Selfmade's been sitting on a ward for a very long time. Flawless duet from Wunder, maybe trying to bait Selfmade here because Jankos just waiting around the corner. You can see him coming in now. Selfmade has spotted him with the Tremor Sense. Doesn't land the knock-up, and both junglers pass like ships in the night.
Thing is, Selfmade was very aware that Jankos was there as well, because we already talked about that ward that was on the blue buff. Both junglers actually had full information of each other without knowing that they had full information of each other. So, as you said, they just back away from each other, don't stress too much about that. Meanwhile, we see Mikyx now on the roam. Boots of Mobility already picked up very early on into the game. He doesn't have that much vision available to him, so he's just scouring, seeing what he can find, maybe a control ward or two, but SK, they've actually invested all their vision up towards the top side of the map, and that's somewhat expected because based on yesterday's performance, when they're running the Aurelia, you would expect G2 to try and snowball this lane, and they've been trying to protect that, but unfortunately for them, Jankos decides to go bot early, and it ends up in first blood for G2.
And part of it's the matchup as well. Yesterday it was an Aurelia into Jax. You don't want to let that Jax get any sort of leeway into the game, whereas here, Wunder can just win the 1v1. Mikyx caught out a little bit down towards the bottom side, has popped the trample. Dreams taking a bit of damage, Selfmade on his way as well. Good flay back, Mikyx with a knockback, but Crownshot has a lot of damage coming out on this Jinx. There's the kill, Jankos coming across now as Caps joins the fray, steals away the Void, Rush jumps straight into Dreams. Might look for a little bit more of the chase. Not going to get anything more out of it. Pirean doesn't want to jump in onto Caps.
Ends up being another 1-for-1, just supports traded, as AD Carry picks up a kill on the side of SK, and the same can be said for Caps. He managed to make the roam down much quicker, and he had the Rek'Sai ultimate available in the event that someone were to flash away. But note how all of the summoner spells are now gone for SK, as they committed hard for this. Now, Mikyx, he's just trying to get a bit of vision down. Dreams rather, just flashes on top of him, gets the Lantern. They set up the Chompers to try and lock him down, but he's able to walk around them. And here, I think Perkz could have healed him a little bit earlier. While the Ignite is running, having that extra bit of HP would have been enough, but Perkz uses the heal too late. That means the Crownshot gets the kill, but then Caps is able to make his way down much faster because SK is so overextended towards G2 side of the map, so Pirean can't really offer a huge amount.
Some very fancy feat there for Mikyx to dodge out a lot of the stuns early on. As you say, the heal may have saved his life in the top lane. Wunder still has about a 20 CS lead or so. Has burnt his teleport. It's going to be back on about the same sort of cooldown as Werlyb's. But 8 minutes in, both teams just trading kills here and there. I think SK will be happy enough, although they probably would have preferred a few of these kills to go across to Pirean. I think the Wunder you have to think for, Selfmade has always been this jungler that really sets up SK for success, right? He's the guy that gets them ahead in the early game, that gives them these leads. And on a champion like the Rek'Sai, who's risen to priority on 9.4, who is all about the level 3 to 20-minute portion of the game, he has to be the one to take the take the initiative for this SK team.
Yeah, he certainly does. We wanted to see him play a lot around mid lane, and so far we've seen one gank attempt from him that hasn't resulted in a huge amount. He did assist in that bot lane play, but he still has enough time to create opportunities for his team. Once these level 6s start to come out, that's definitely going to be a point at which he could try and leverage, but while the laning phase is continuing, you're seeing that G2 is starting to build leads across the board. And in the top lane, Wunder has built up a massive CS advantage, showcasing his confidence on the Irelia champion. But fortunately for Werlyb, he did get that kill onto the Jarvan, so he's not too far behind in gold. Mid lane is actually getting pretty significantly in favor of Caps, not only in terms of the farm, but also in terms of the gold. And the same can be said in the bot lane, where Perkz is just slowly ramping up as he's building up a pretty hefty CS lead himself.
You can see Jankos and Mikyx just teaming up, clearing out as much of this vision as possible, even getting in to the SK jungle. The hook lands from Dreams here, only onto the Alistar. Selfmade coming across as well. Pirean jumped on with the Cataclysm. Pirean jumps all the way forward, but Mikyx lands a great headbutt, just deletes him. And SK thought they could react, but G2, once again, just that step ahead.
And now the LeBlanc is in a very dire situation as he has to go back to base with nothing. G2 pick themselves up another kill. They're looking to even steal away the blue buff. Caps, he probably isn't going to secure this one though, as Selfmade is hanging around, and we see a fight in the top lane.
Werlyb gets a shield from picking up his buckler, but Caps does just take it. Selfmade didn't want to go for the fight. There was no vision in the river from SK at all, so you just didn't know where anyone else, and G2 they just take everything off the bottom side of the map. They get a kill, they get the blue buff, they get the dragon, they get a lead in the top lane. This is pretty dirty to watch. Wunder just going for the dive. Great heroic charge there from Werlyb into the Steadfast presence. Might even have the 1v1, but Wunder flashes. Will be a 1-for-1 trade in the top lane. Werlyb getting what he could out of that.
You can see the smirk on Wunder's face as he knows he got outplayed there. That was beautiful stuff from Werlyb. We're going to start off with the replay down towards the bot side of the map. You'll note how Mikyx, he feels he's safe. He does have the flash up as well, so he's just trying to clear up some vision. We don't have time because we have another fight in mid.
Void Rush came out from Selfmade there. Rocket. Oh! Caps almost jumped into it, but didn't quite. Looks like it was a 2v1 in the mid lane that Caps comes out of alive.
Nearly gets the kill there onto Pirean as well, showcasing the power of Silas, going for the Proto Belt early. But in that last replay, what I wanted to highlight was the fact that Mikyx, he actually played with very good awareness of what was going on. You know, he had support from the rest of his team. He knew that Caps was going to collapse first. And what I thought was interesting was how Jankos burned the ultimate onto a LeBlanc. And initially you think this isn't the best target because you can't lock her down, but what you do is you force her to W, which means that there's that small delay period where she can then be CC'd because she can't then jump back, and then that's immediately what Mikyx's able to punish with a good knockup. So I really like the decision making there from Jankos to kind of force Pirean into this awkward situation.
Decision making here as well from SK, saying we can't fight in that bottom lane anymore because we want to go for this Rift Herald, so they move everyone up to the top side. Now Crownshot and Dreams will push out that top lane, and Werlyb has already gone down towards the bottom lane to answer Perkz' pressure.
He's just trying to hold out against the pushing Kai'Sa, and he was able to clear the wave as well. Now he's immediately backed off, but with SK having a Rift Herald, they should be able to siege onto this tower much quicker. Notice the positioning of Dreams right now. He hasn't hit the tower, which means they can funnel all this gold onto Crownshot, but in the bot lane...
Yeah, Werlyb getting dived on the other side of the map. Lands the heroic charge only onto Jankos. Mikyx still tanking up the tower. Cataclysm actually pulls him in. Mikyx so low, Werlyb will go down as well. G2 with the perfect tanking of that tower. They lose the tower in the top side though, and SK keep that gold lead at only about the 600 mark.
Werlyb showcasing how tanky he is on the Poppy, is able to buy a lot of time for his team while they secure the top lane tower. Very nearly secures another hit onto that objective, but Caps was able to land that last hit. So all in all, SK find themselves first tower, so overall team gold is good, but individually, G2 still ahead.
Yeah, I think the AD carry role is the only one with an SK lead. It's about 600 gold in favor of Crownshot. He's now got the Infinity Edge, but Perkz has finished his own IE and has the pickaxe, so he's got that Acathian Rain upgrade on the Q. He's evolved that to chuck out 12 little spiky boys instead of only the 6.
Certainly is. Sorry, Medic was having a swig of water there.
That's all right, mate.
Meanwhile,
no one would have known.
The dive on the bot lane. Mikyx gets interrupted with the W from Werlyb. You can see, just Poppy is so obnoxiously tanky. The last hit does come through from Perkz, but you're right, Mikyx leveraging the most out of his ultimate to just buy time, stall underneath the tower. And they end up finding that kill. Now, no objectives have been secured. I say no objectives. The Cloud Drake has been secured. No towers have been secured for G2. But regardless, they still sit with a 1,000 gold lead, largely because of the massive advantage Wunder's been able to build in the top lane, and Caps has been able to build in the mid lane. SK have not been able to get Pirean ahead. We haven't seen a huge amount of early game action from Selfmade. And while he's not in a bad spot, it's only going to get worse from here as Werlyb is now in a 1v1 against Caps.
1v1 in Caps. He steals his ultimate away and knocks him over the wall, though. Oh, that's quite pretty to watch. Selfmade caught out here by Jankos, though. The stun's going to land. Flawless duet comes out. Vanguard's at juiced as well, but Selfmade, nowhere for him to go. He's taken out, and G2 get a kill on the other side of the map.
Good use of the flash there from Jankos to interrupt Selfmade as he's burrowing to try and escape from that situation. Ends up being another kill going in favor of G2. I think that went in the back pocket of Jankos, and now they're setting up a siege onto the mid lane.
And as much as we said G2 have not got any towers yet, last time these two teams played, it was only about a 900 gold lead at the 15-minute mark for G2, and then they finished it 10 minutes later with a 9,000 gold lead. So we expect G2 to play in the 15 to 25-minute phase of the game. That's when they really come online, and that's when SK need to be aware, because they haven't got the early lead they would have wanted. Perkz caught out a little bit here. Crownshot did use the Super Mega Death Rocket, but it was tanked up by Mikyx, who once again is in the right place at the right time. Selfmade coming across, Jankos on his way as well. Mikyx dodges out from the zap. And Dream's actually going to flash in here. Unstoppable onslaught. Sorry, the ultimate used by the Alistar. Selfmade gets the kill. So good stuff once again from SK to find a pick.
I think that was a mistake from Perkz there, that Mikyx had to then use his life to cover for.
I think so too.
Yeah. Good guy, Mikyx, doing what he can to protect his AD carry's KDA. So we will get a replay of this one. Yeah, so he ends up getting hooked. He walks over a wall that he doesn't realize is there. Mikyx not only body blocks, but he also just absorbs a lot of the crowd control to make sure that his AD carry doesn't die. And then Dreams comes in with the flash to help secure the kill, which then sets up for Jankos to say, yeah, no. If Wunder had more mana and maybe was in a better position, had the ultimate, they could have gone for that fight, but he wasn't in a position to do so, and therefore they just backed away. What surprised me is that they even had Wunder in the mid lane when Silas doesn't have teleport. Maybe they feel that Silas at this point in the game is stronger into the Poppy, especially seeing as he has no magic resistance. I guess I could see it, but it does mean that playing for these objectives could be a little harder. Unless, of course, you're G2 and you'd already set up that vision earlier to secure this objective.
Well, we'll see if they keep Silas in that side lane, because it looks like they've gone back to keeping Wunder up towards the top side with Caps here in the mid. He's actually gained about a 40 CS lead over Pirean, so he's in a very strong spot, and both teams just sort of gesturing down towards this bottom side of the map. G2, as we see, sitting on 2 dragons, have already got a tower down as well, about a 2,000 gold lead for them now. And you getting to the point of the game where SK, you feel, have to do something. Just have to do something a little bit quicker, because they haven't got the early lead they wanted in the 2v2 mid. They haven't got their AD carry ahead. Werlyb is behind, mid is behind, bot is behind. And when you come in against a team that can 1-3-1 and you have no one who can answer in those side lanes, it's not a pretty sight.
Nope, not really. G2, they don't have to force anything too hard right now. Their scaling is going to be pretty good. As you rightly said, they have the Silas, who's in a very strong position right now. So what SK have decided to try and do is actually group up, get some vision with more numbers, which means that G2, while they're isolated, obviously can't fight this, so they're forced to back off. But it does mean that they regain control of the side lanes. You can already see Wunder up in the top side of the map, setting up towards that tower. He's going to try and clear this out as quickly as possible with his Tiamat. And Werlyb then forced to split apart. You have Crownshot trying to catch the farm on bot. And this is the kind of situation that G2 want for themselves. And you'll kind of see this a lot. SK just starting to group, trying to force something in their small windows, and then G2 trying to keep the map as split open as possible so that they can leverage their strong 1-3-1.
So I have to see where SK think those windows are. There's opportunities for them to force fights against G2. Usually you look at neutral objectives. Baron up in 2 minutes. Infernal Dragon, the next one to spawn as well. Caps gets the tower down towards the bottom side. Pirean trying to get some damage here onto Mikyx as they realize the rest of G2 are split up. There's the hook. Super Mega Death Rocket. It's going to be tanked up with that Unbreakable Will. The Alistar too darn healthy when he uses that ultimate.
So Mikyx chose not to flash there, which I think is fine. It does cost the heal from Perkz and the ultimate from Mikyx as well. But G2 have traded it for a tower towards the bot side of the map. Now though, SK actually have a numbers advantage, meaning they can look to push in the mid lane. and they're set up for success, but I don't think G2 want to give this one away for free.
Yeah, Wunder going to flash in with the ultimate, lands it onto Pirean. There's a teleport straight away from SK. Pirean jumps back in. Chain's not quite going to connect for all this duet hit onto Werlyb. No minions left here. Cataclysm goes down. His core Dreams. He's healed up, but they get Jankos, and Wunder unable to jump onto the backline. Dreams still alive as well. SK somehow got out of this one. The stopwatch as Mikyx engages. Selfmade there. 3-man stun. Pirean jumps onto the backline, but now it's all about Caps and Perkz just getting damage down they can. Pirean jumped all the way across. It's a second kill for Perkz. He's on the chase. Werlyb has to flash away. Caps can't quite land the stun, but it's a triple for Perkz. The Kaiser's well and truly online, and G2 just turn around SK's play in the mid lane.
Mikyx hunting for more. He has his eyes on Crownshot and Selfmade, but the rest of G2 are going to be more than happy just taking the objective for themselves. I love the ultimate from Werlyb. It looked like he had found a very good fight setup, but Caps, he wants more.
Oh, he almost just bursts out. Crownshot steals the ultimate away. Can't quite land the Super Mega Death Rocket. And now, actually, maybe SK can turn it around because Mikyx's so low. Crownshot can't quite get the damage down. And so it's a 1-4-1 trade.
That was greedy from Caps. He wanted more. He thought he could burst out Crownshot, but he ends up getting punished for it. Ends up being a 1-for-1 in that final trade, but ultimately G2 do come out on top. And as we said, 15 to 25 minutes is usually where this team really turns online, really starts to apply that pressure, and this fight is a good example of that. So remember that Mikyx got forced back to base, he used his ultimate, so they 3v4 fight to try and force them away. And in this Alienware Predator replay, what I want you to keep your eyes on is Werlyb as he knocks away the 2 core carries of G2, allowing them to just burst out onto Jankos. But G2 is saying, you know what, we can still commit to this. We still have the Kaiser ultimate, we still have the engage from Mikyx, and SK have lost a lot of their abilities, so we're not afraid to commit to this fight. And that's exactly what they do. So they just slowly run down onto SK, they keep finding these kills, and they end up securing a tier 2.
You see Crownshot only getting like 4 or 5 auto attacks away as he's just trying to retreat. Caps went in a little bit too deep. It would have looked sweet if he had got the kill by stealing away the Mega Death Rocket, but wasn't quite able to do it, and we always wonder how effective Silas can be, where you can see Caps topping the damage charts there on the mid lane mage, showing us just how strong that champion could be. But 1-3-1 once again, it seems to be from G2 as they put actually Perkz in towards the side lane here. He picked up a lot of kills in that last fight, so now has that Ginsu's complete 1,000 gold bounty on the Kaiser as well. So maybe if SK can find a pick, they can start to eke their way back into this game, but they are 5k behind. It's not looking too pretty.
The next big objective will be the Infernal. 10 seconds on the clock. Wunder does have TP, while Werlyb doesn't. G2, they're just going to go for an engage.
Mikyx outforces the engage onto Dreams, onto Pirean. Only 2 members of SK off towards this side as Wunder just separates the rest of the fight out. Pirean jumping back, but that's a second kill already for Perkz. He's down to about a 3rd HP. Crownshot couldn't land at the Super Mega Death Rocket. Wunder's teleported into... no, Wunder not going to join the fight just quite yet as Crownshot jumped on by Caps, knocked away. Crownshot getting some damage in here. Chased back by Mikyx. Selfmade tried to get onto the back line, but the stopwatch stops him in his tracks. Crownshot, though, still alive. Just needs a couple. Caps jumps in. The double comes out for Crownshot, but Caps answers it with a couple of its own. And Perkz will clean up the fight.
Definitely a messy team fight there from G2, but ultimately they are the victors. They find all 5 kills onto SK. Caps and Perkz are the core ones to pick them up. Question is, can they convert it into any objectives? Perkz making his way towards the Infernal as Caps pushes in the mid lane. Looks like they will be able to, at the very least, get the Drake, which is what primarily they were playing around.
That's what the fight was all about, and you have more kills on Silas now. He's got that Ludens, you've got more kills on the Kaiser as well.
So the key thing about this fight is G2 wanted to force something before SK got in a position to set up. You've always got to respect the potential, the team fight potential of this SK team, and they notice, hey, you know what, there are just 2 members sitting here, we have 4, let's just engage and burst. Now the mistake is the TP in from Wunder, who TPs onto the traps, into the CC from the rest of SK, which means that while it should have just been an immediate 2 for 0, the rest of SK actually get a kill. That means that with 3 members still alive and a lot of health bars actually chunked out on the side of G2, SK are actually in a position where they can start to kite back. Now, Crownshot gets chunked out. You think at this point they're going to lose the fight, but look at how much damage Selfmade and Werlyb are tanking up. And Crownshot is just left unkilled on the backline. He could have potentially won that fight if it weren't for Caps diving onto him and securing that kill. But considering how far behind SK are, finding a 3 kills in that situation is really kind of what the best case scenario for you.
5,000 damage coming out from Crownshot, but now G2 move from the Inferno across towards the Baron. They have some deep vision already set up. SK can't see anything in this pit. Hoppy's down towards the bottom side. Werlyb does not have the teleport. Caps just chasing Selfmade away here, stolen away the Void Rush. Pirean jumps in. They know the Baron's going down. Perkz has got it. And now Mikyx and Caps, but Caps on the wrong side of the pit. Void Rush in from Caps just takes the kill. That is disgusting amounts of damage, and G2 have just opened up this game entirely. They're almost 10,000 gold ahead. They're just destroying SK after a very slow sort of early game. They are now just turning the screw. Werlyb caught out by Perkz. And Perkz just taking the scuttle crab while he can. Supercharges in, heals as well. The Vanguard's edge comes out. SK lose another man.
That was definitely personal for Wunder. After that outplay in the top side, he was like, nope, I'm going to kill you, Werlyb. And he ends up actually having the kill stolen from him by Perkz, who continues to pan out his KDA 8-0 and 4 right now. Remember to thank your support for that one. Yep. Could have been one death to blemish that record if it weren't for Mikyx earlier on in the game. But G2 with the Baron, looking to siege onto the base. I don't know if SK can even defend at this point, as G2 are on a tear.
Werlyb still 15 seconds before he gets back up. Wunder very low, but Caps jumps in once again and stolen away. This will make a death throw. Selfmade gets a kill on the backline, but he's caught up in the Cataclysm and stunned up. He will not quite fall, but eventually he does, and Caps is on a rampage. Pirean, though, can jump forward here. Caps so low, the shutdown. Oh, great play back onto Mikyx there as well. Stops him from getting engaged. It's going to be another kill for Crownshot, and once again, the Jinx shows what she can do in a team fight. So
G2 get a little greedy there as SK continue to pick up more kills. 6, 1, and 4 is the scoreline now for Crownshot, and he is a big threat that G2 have to be careful of. Let's look at how this Baron came to be. Mikyx and Caps basically just acting as zoning tools. Selfmade can't get anywhere near the Baron, which is why G2 can afford to skip out on a lot of the setup in order to allow the rest of their team to just secure it. Really good zoning from them, and then they just decide to commit to the fight. They recognize Werlyb is out of position. They I say overcommit. It's a very easy kill for them. I don't think Wunder needed to flash.
No. I don't think you need the heal either. Supercharge, I think, gets you in range of the Poppy there.
I mean, yeah, but anyway, they end up securing it. They will secure the mid inhib as well. Now they need to play towards these side lanes. And fun fact, this is where that 1-3-1, which they could have leveraged, really now comes into fruition. But this is a really good example of why some fans, analysts, even other players are skeptical of G2, because you look at this game and you're like, well, they're just stomping their opponents. They're better. This isn't a clean game of League of Legends. This isn't like an 18-0 performance. This is actually messy. They're losing a lot of fights, and that's why some teams actually do have that doubt. And for me, it feels like G2 definitely take a lot more risks than they need to, but I think it's one of those situations where they understand how far ahead they are, and so they're willing to take more gambles. And it's part of that fun aspect that you always hear from them that I think is something they end up getting punished for.
There's also the idea of standard deviation, right? You can make one play 100 times, and 90 times out of 100 it comes off, and then 10 times it doesn't, and G2 seem to be willing to make that play a lot more often than other teams would, right? They make the play that's a little bit closer to the edge. It's the other way around, where it's like a play that works 2 out of 10 times, and then G2 go, no, I can make that work. Yeah, because they're just so good. I mean, it works then. It works for them. Well, you say that as Perkz now loses, what, 80% of his HP? Yeah. It's always the risk against the Jinx. That you talked about this yesterday. If you use need to play on a side lane, my friends. This is... I don't know what I'm seeing right now. G2. Well, I agree with you there, yes. They might be waiting for Wunder's teleport to be back up before they completely commit to the side lane. That's fair. He's just going to steal away this blue, but I mean, it's still a 9,000 gold lead. We're still only 27 minutes into the game. There's still another Infernal Dragon for them to pick up. The other thing is, so on top of not having teleport, he also doesn't have Baron. So I guess they were very much of the opinion, well, you know what, we may as well just group up and leverage this Baron to siege onto the towers. They do still get the tier 2. Nobody ends up dying. They don't cost any summon spells, so it's not the end of the world. And I think the Baron has now worn off. So next objective is the Infernal. Pirean jumps back as Mikyx goes for the engage. Perkz is in the side here. SK caught out as 4 players in the middle. Caps off towards the top side of this is sort of a line of scrimmage between the 2 teams. Perkz just dodges out the hook. He jumps straight onto the back line though. Perkz maybe got a little bit too deep, but he gets onto Crownshot and takes him out. 1-for-1 in the edge. The AD carries ball. Shutdown goes over to Werlyb. Dream's caught up in the Cataclysm. Caps still doing a lot of work on this back line, but Mikyx is the next to fall. 2-for-2 trade so far. Jankos getting the chase in onto Werlyb. Pirean's backing down towards the bottom side of this fight, so it's 2v3 up towards the top. Selfmade maybe looking for the engage. Pirean rejoins the fight though. Werlyb there, Selfmade gets in, Wunder's down, and SK turning this one around. The Void Rush used by Selfmade, Jankos dead. It's only Caps left alive. Werlyb knocks him back. Can Pirean get the damage on Caps? Trying to trade him 2v1 against 1. No way! No way! He can't quite do it. Werlyb shuts him down, and G2 lose the fight. But SK, they find themselves an ace against a G2 that was 10,000 gold ahead of them. Fantastic stuff from the SK lineup as they fend off G2. Now,
the commitment here for G2 is we have to kill Crownshot. He's the only threat on this team. And Perkz, he seems to go back to his old mid lane days where he seems to think he's the assassin. And while you can do this on the Kai'Sa, you put yourself in a position where Werlyb had free reign onto that primary AD carry and was able to shut him down. And then at this point, you've lost the Kai'Sa, Sylas is out of the fight, and you still have a Rek'Sai, a LeBlanc, and a Poppy that will have plenty of damage to turn this around. Now, we can't even see the end of the replay because the the Dragon rather, has been started off, and both these teams want it.
SK really need this. There's no jungler for them yet. Perkz is down though, shut down by Werlyb. 7 and 5 now on that Poppy. The silent assassin for this SK lineup. Jankos maybe looking for the steal, can't get it. Crownshot secures the Inferno, so SK extra 10% AD and AP going across to them.
Crucial mistake there coming out from Perkz. Getting hit by the hook means that he loses his life and so much of the damage disappears from G2. This sloppy play is definitely not what you want to be seeing if you are a G2 fan, as SK now look to get priority around the Baron.
One of Werlyb's most played at the top level of competition is this Poppy. Mikyx now set up for a flanking play. All of that vision for G2. SK do not know he's there. Mikyx can look for the engage, has the Hex Flash. SK have started up the Baron though. Do G2 realize they're going to go in for it now? Mikyx coming in from across the wall. This could be perfect. There's a blast cone there for him as well. Easy setup for them. Caps coming across. Wunder there as well. Jankos chased out by Pirean. Selfmade's ultimate stolen away. The hammer's coming down from the Poppy. Werlyb knocks back one. Mikyx comes in, but the Baron goes down. And now it's only Caps and Mikyx in the pit. They get put in the box. Caps getting a lot of damage out, but Crownshot's still alive. And SK take down 2. And they are turning this game on its head.
This should have been an extremely one-sided, done and dusted game for G2. They had a 10,000 goal lead, and now SK are turning it around. They find another 2 kills onto G2, they secure themselves the Baron, and now you look at that scoreboard and you're like, that Jinx is level 16. She has 4 completed items, and Crownshot can now be the carry that helps add another blemish to the G2 board.
You can see what G2 are trying to do. Mikyx is in the perfect position.
But Pirean zones away Jankos. He gets chunked out before he can even get close to the pit. And it means that Caps is just sitting there, diving on the back line with Mikyx, but they just don't have enough damage. 5 versus 2, that's not enough. And now G2, they're the ones being pushed back. They're the ones in a dire situation. Even though they have the gold lead, what does it matter when SK have the Baron buff and they're sieging onto your turrets?
You cannot stress enough how monumental this win would be for SK. Yesterday, they lost to XL, the 2nd worst team in the league according to the standings. Today, if they could take down G2, their playoff hopes are still very much alive. Even after you've seen those last 2 fights, even after you've seen SK get back into this game, you still look at it and you still think it's still G2, right? It's still
No,
Caps,
I don't.
It's still Wunder.
I mean, when I look at how this game has played out in the second half, I think that SK have been the better team. How many times have we seen Perkz now get caught out? His positioning has been greedy. We've seen Caps be very impactful in these fights, but you then look at Wunder. This is a shadow of the performance that he had on his Irelia yesterday. Sure, the scoreline doesn't look good, but you look at his target focus in these team fights, and it's been all over the shop, and I just feel like Mikyx has been setting up the fights well, but the execution from some of these members from G2 just has not been crisp. And again, we go back to highlighting some of the criticisms, some of the concerns that people have around this G2 roster are really being exemplified in this game.
I want to bring us back to something we discussed in Picks and Bans and in the early portion of the game. It was about getting the LeBlanc and the Rek'Sai ahead in the early game. SK weren't able to do that, but they seem to have got back into the game now. In terms of team fighting, in terms of scaling, are they on equal footing with G2 now?
So, because they have such a strong front line with the Poppy, and because of the extremely long range with Crownshot, I feel like just in a straight-up 5v5, SK are in a really good position. But I still think that it's really difficult for Pirean to leverage this LeBlanc, who doesn't have that much damage at this point in time, and you still have these split-push threats of Wunder and Caps that are just causing chaos in a side, and you can see Caps is able to even secure an inhibitor tower, but he doesn't have the teleport. So G2 now getting sieged on in their bot lane tower.
SK looking for the inhib. Teleport comes out. Caps immediately goes for the inhib himself. G2 trying to stall SK, but SK might just take the fight. Wunder down to about half HP. Werlyb jumps in. Perkz cleanses it away. Great knock up. The Cataclysm comes out as well. But already Jankos is down. And now SK just trying to turn and burn on this fight because Caps is on their inhibitor. He's looking for the base. One down. Jankos falls. Crownshot takes down the inhibitor. Takes down Mikyx as well. Is this it? Is this the moment that SK keep their playoff dreams alive? They take down G2 in their base. Wunder trying to do it again. Perkz there as well. But already the second Nexus towers fall. Caps is on the Nexus towers, but SK are on the Nexus, and they will take down G2.
determination on the side of SK as they get the upset win against G2. That game should have been done and dusted. That game should have been over. But SK, they took those team fights. They punished the mistakes of G2. They found themselves a Baron, and then they ended that game cleanly. I thought it could be difficult. I thought it couldn't be done. But SK, they were the better team in the second half of that game.
Definitely were.
And now G2 add another loss to their record.
Incredible stuff all round from SK. I think you have to give some credit, well, both to Werlyb and to Crownshot. Crownshot's kiting in some of those late game teamfights was impeccable. Werlyb, after being put so far behind, even ended at almost 100 CS behind Wunder, just had so much impact in teamfights, was able to do so much on this Poppy, and really had, probably, to me, the best performance he's had this split.
I was really impressed with how Werlyb played this game. I feel like, as you rightly said, given how far behind he was put, the fact he was able to have such a massive impact on these fights was really monumental. He really locked down the crucial targets. He found himself a number of kills. He did his best to try and deal with Silas off in a side lane, and I'm surprised that Caps tried to go for the end game, but I guess they'd realized that they couldn't win those 5v5s. They decided not to try and do it, and they end up losing in the very end. But, you know, it's one of those things where Crownshot, it's one of those situations where you could make the argument, well, he just had a really good scoreline, but did he do that much? But the thing you really have to credit him for is the fact that when you consider how far behind this team was, he actually only died twice in the entire game. Yeah. When you had all those divers, you had the Jarvan, you had the Aurelia, you had the Alistar flashing on top of you every single time. But I just feel like that with the combination of Werlyb and his peel, with the fact that Crownshot had all this threat onto him, these two together were a large part of why SK were able to find this extremely important win against G2.
Well, they definitely were. That's also the reason that Werlyb and Crownshot, alongside Pirean, are looking to become your key player of the game. Make sure you vote on LOL at LOL Esports on Twitter. I don't know who I'd give it to.
That's a tough one. That's what I'm going to leave it to the fans to decide.
Yeah, we should leave it to the fans.
Yeah, I'm going to leave it to you guys.
I think looking at that game as well, though, you can't only talk about SK's success. You have to talk about a couple of mistakes G2 made. I mean, I look back to the tower dive from Caps on that mid lane inhib. You went too hard. They could have just got the tower. They could have just got the inhib with the Baron buff, but instead, they lost out on their mid lane.
Well, ultimately, it's one of those situations where I felt like they had a 1-3-1 comp. They didn't try and leverage it, even when they had the Baron themselves. They kept trying to team fight, and ultimately, that's where their undoing came to be. So I felt like that was a pretty disrespectful game from G2. They got rightly punished, and SK, they earned themselves a very important win in the race for playoffs.
Well, to hear from a, I am sure, elated Crownshot, we're going to head on over to Law.
Thank you, guys, and thank you, Crownshot, for joining me. I mean, you lose to XL yesterday, you beat G2 today. What does it mean for SK?
I think it's quite sad that we're so inconsistent, because every game is important right now to get playoffs, and we shouldn't really be dropping games to the last place team, but of course it feels good to win against G2. And you had a new coach this week. I mean, you had 3 coaches in only the spring split, so how did you work to make this one happen with the new coach? We felt that it would fit us better to have him on stage for the draft, and we all thought this would be the best idea, so we just went with it. I mean, talking through the game, you had a rough early game, and then you started to come back. When did you know in-game that you could actually take it? We started winning some fights when they started being a bit too aggressive and a bit too sloppy in their fighting. And when I got like 3.5 items,